The white medical ship Mercy's Light moved through the darkness of space like a bright star. Inside the ship, Dr. Hyun-woo checked his medical supplies one more time. He was a tall man with kind eyes and steady hands. For 10 years, he had led medical missions to help people across the galaxy. This mission felt different, though, more dangerous. "Doctor, we're getting close to the Epsilon sector," said Captain Yoon-sik from the bridge. His voice came through the ship's speakers. "The council says it's still a war zone out there." Hyun-woo walked to the main medical bay where his team was getting ready. Dr. So-young was organizing surgical tools. She was the best surgeon he had ever worked with. Her small hands could save lives that others thought were lost. Next to her, Nurse Ji-ho was checking medical scanners. He was young but had served as a combat medic in the Mars colonies. He knew how to work under pressure. Dr. Tae-min sat at a computer station, studying alien biology files. He was the team's expert on different species. When humans first met aliens 50 years ago, doctors like Tae-min had to learn how to treat completely new kinds of bodies. It was hard work, but it saved countless lives. "Team meeting," Hyun-woo called out. The 4 medical staff gathered around, a table in the center of the bay. "You all know why we're here. The planet Kelvara has a plague. The local people are dying. The Galactic Council won't send help because the area is too dangerous." So-young looked up from her tools. "How bad is it, Doctor?" Hyun-woo activated a holographic display. Images of the planet appeared above the table. Kelvara looked beautiful from space, with blue oceans and green continents. But the reports told a different story. "The plague started 3 months ago," Hyun-woo explained. "It attacks the nervous system of the Kelvarite people. Without treatment, victims die within 2 weeks. The planet's own doctors don't know how to stop it." Ji-ho frowned. "What about their government? Can't they get help from someone else?" "That's the problem," Tae-min said, pulling up more data. "Kelvara is caught between 2 fighting groups. The hegemony wants to control their planet for its rare metals. A rebel alliance is trying to stop them. The fighting makes it impossible for normal aid ships to get through." The ship's alarm beeped softly. Captain Yoon-sik's voice came over the speakers again. "Doctor, we're picking up a distress signal. Multiple ships. Looks like refugees." Hyun-woo stood up quickly. "Put it on screen." The main display showed space ahead of their ship. Floating in the darkness were dozens of small spacecraft. Most looked old and damaged. Some were barely holding together. These were not military ships or fancy passenger vessels. These were the desperate vehicles of people running for their lives. "This is Dr. Hyun-woo of the Earth medical ship Mercy's Light," he spoke into the communication system. "We see your ships." "Do you need medical help?" a weak voice answered. The translation computer made it sound human, but Hyun-woo could hear the alien accent underneath. "Please, help us. Many sick. Children dying. We have nothing left." So-young was already moving toward the medical equipment. "Doctor, I can prep the emergency bay in 5 minutes." "Do it," Hyun-woo ordered. He turned to Captain Yoon-sik's image on the screen. "Captain, can we dock with their ships safely?" "It'll be tight, but yes. Some of those ships look like they might fall apart if we're not careful. For the next 6 hours, the crew of Mercy's Light worked without stopping. They brought sick and injured refugees aboard their ship. The refugees were Kelvarites, the same people they had come to help. They had blue-gray skin and large eyes that showed their pain clearly. Hyun-woo worked on a young Kelvarite child who was burning with fever. The plague was already in her system. Her parents watched with desperate hope as he gave her medicine. "Will she live?" the father asked through the translator. "I don't know yet," Hyun-woo answered honestly. "But we're going to try everything we can." In the next bed, So-young was operating on an older Kelvarite who had been injured in an attack. "This wasn't caused by the plague," she told Hyun-woo quietly. "These are weapon wounds. Someone shot at their refugee ships." Ji-ho was treating a group of children in another section. Despite his youth, he was good with young patients. He made them laugh, even though they were scared and sick. The children didn't understand his words, but they understood his kindness. Taemin was taking blood samples and running tests. "Doctor, I'm seeing something strange in these plague cases. The disease is definitely natural, but it's been changed, somehow. Made worse." "What do you mean?" Hyun-woo asked, still working on the sick child. "Someone has been experimenting with it, making it spread faster and kill quicker. This isn't just a natural plague anymore." The news made Hyun-woo feel cold inside. Someone was using disease as a weapon against these people. That went against everything he believed in as a doctor. One of the refugee adults, a Kelvarite woman named Velara, could speak some Earth Standard language. She told them what had happened on Kelvara. "The hegemony came first," she said, her large eyes filled with sadness. "They said they wanted to protect us from the plague, but they brought soldiers, not doctors. They took control of our cities and our hospitals." "What about the plague?" So Young asked while checking on her patient. "It got worse after they came. Much worse. Our doctors who tried to help people, they disappeared. The hegemony said only their medicine could save us. But their medicine didn't work. It made things worse." Hyun-woo exchanged looks with his team. This was not just a medical crisis. This was something much more dangerous. "We escaped when we could," Velara continued. "Many families, maybe 2,000 people. We had enough fuel to reach the outer system, but then hegemony ships found us. They attacked, said we were carrying the plague and had to be destroyed." "That's why you have weapon wounds," Jiho said, understanding now. "Yes, they killed many. Ships. We barely escaped. Been floating in space for days, running out of air and food." Captain Yoon-sik called from the bridge. "Doctor, I'm getting reports from the other refugee ships. They're saying the same thing. The hegemony is using the plague as an excuse to take over Kelvara. Anyone who fights back or tries to leave gets attacked." Hyun-woo felt anger building in his chest. He had spent his whole career helping people, treating everyone the same, regardless of what species they were or where they came from. The idea of someone using disease as a weapon made him sick. "Doctor," Taemin called out urgently. "The child you've been treating, her fever is breaking." Hyun-woo rushed back to the young Kelvarite girl. Her parents were holding her hands. The medicine was working. Her temperature was going down and her breathing was getting better. "She's going to be okay," he told the parents. Relief and joy filled their alien faces. But even as he celebrated this small victory, Hyun-woo knew they had a much bigger problem. Thousands of people on Kelvara were still dying. The hegemony was making things worse on purpose, and now he and his team were the only medical help these people had. "Captain," he said into his communicator, "set course for Kelvara. We have work to do." "Doctor, are you sure? The council warned us about going there." Hyun-woo looked around the medical bay. Kelvarite refugees were getting better because of Earth medicine and Earth compassion. His team was working together to save lives just like they always did. "Captain, we're doctors. People are dying and we can help them. That's all that matters." The Mercy's light changed course toward the dangerous planet. Behind them, the refugee ships followed, carrying people who now had hope again. None of them knew they were flying into a trap that would change the galaxy forever. The planet Kelvara looked peaceful from orbit. Its blue oceans and green lands reminded Dr. Hyun-woo of Earth, but he knew that looks could lie. Down on the surface, people were dying from a plague that someone had made worse on purpose. "Doctor, we're getting permission to land," Captain Yoon-sik reported from the bridge. "The local government says they cleared a safe zone for us outside the capital city." Hyun-woo nodded as he watched his team prepare their equipment. Dr. So Young was checking surgical tools one last time. Nurse Ji-ho was loading medical supplies onto transport containers. Dr. Taemin was reviewing his research on Kelvarite biology. "Remember, everyone," Hyun-woo said, "we're here to help sick people. Nothing else matters. If anyone tries to stop us from doing our job, we ignore them and keep working." The Mercy's light descended through Kelvara's atmosphere. Through the windows, they could see the damage below. Whole cities looked empty. Smoke rose from several areas. This was a world at war with itself. They landed in a flat area outside the capital. Within an hour, Hyunwoo's team had set up a field hospital. It was made of quick-building medical modules that could treat hundreds of patients. Solar panels powered their equipment. Clean water came from purification systems. The first patients arrived before they finished setting up. Kelverite families carried their sick relatives on stretchers made from whatever they could find. Children walked beside their parents, their large eyes full of fear and hope. "So many," So Young whispered as she saw the line of patients forming outside their hospital. "We'll help them all," Hyunwoo said firmly. "One at a time if we have to." For 3 days, they worked without stopping. Hyunwoo treated plague victims with medicines from Earth. So Young performed surgery on patients injured in the fighting. Jiho took care of children who had lost their parents. Taemin studied the plague, trying to understand how it had been changed. The field hospital saved lives every hour. Kelverites who came in dying left healthy and strong. Word spread quickly across the planet. More people came seeking help. The human doctors treated everyone, asking nothing in return. On the 4th day, everything changed. Hyunwoo was treating an elderly Kelverite man when the air around them began to shimmer. He looked up from his patient to see the sky itself seeming to bend and twist. "Cloaking fields," Captain Yoon-sik's voice crackled over the communicator. "Big ships, lots of them. They're surrounding the planet." Suddenly, the sky filled with massive warships. They were dark gray and covered in weapon systems. These were not exploration ships or cargo vessels. These were ships built for one purpose: war. The largest ship positioned itself directly above the field hospital. A beam of light shot down from the ship, creating a holographic image in front of the medical tents. The image showed an alien creature that Hyunwoo had never seen before. The creature stood 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like black metal. Red eyes glowed in its angular head. When it spoke, its voice was cold and full of anger. "I am Commander Vextar of the Hegemony War Fleet," the image announced. "You humans will stop your interference immediately." Hyunwoo stepped forward still, wearing his medical coat stained with the blood of patients he had saved. "We are doctors. We're here to help sick people. We're not interfering with anything." Vextar's red eyes focused on him. "You are making our work more difficult. These people were meant to die from the plague. Your medicine is ruining our plans." The words hit Hyunwoo like a physical blow. "You want them to die? You're the ones who made the plague worse?" "The plague is a useful tool," Vextar said without emotion. "It weakens their resistance to our rule. Dead populations do not rebel. But your human medicine is too effective. You must leave now." Around the field hospital, Kelverite patients and their families listened to the conversation. Even though many didn't understand the Earth language, they could hear the threat in Vextar's voice. So Young stepped up beside Hyunwoo. "We won't abandon our patients." "Neither will I," said Jiho, moving to stand with them. Taemin joined the group. "These people need our help. We're staying." Vextar's image grew larger and more threatening. "You misunderstand your situation, humans. This is not a request. This is an order. Leave now or face the consequences." Hyunwoo looked around at the hundreds of patients in their field hospital. Children who had been dying were now playing with toys Jiho had given them. Adults who had been at death's door were sitting up and eating. Families were together again because human medicine had saved their loved ones. "No," Hyunwoo said simply. "We're doctors. We don't abandon patients." Vextar's expression changed. The alien commander seemed surprised that humans would refuse his order. "You choose death over obedience?" "We choose to save lives over following orders from murderers," Hyunwoo replied. The commander's 4 arms moved, touching controls that weren't visible in the hologram. Very well. You have chosen your fate. The holographic image disappeared. For a moment, the field hospital was quiet except for the sounds of medical equipment and patients talking softly. Then the sky began to glow. Energy weapons charging. Captain Yunsik's voice came over the communicator, tight with fear. "Doctor, they're targeting the hospital. Get everyone out now!" Hyun-woo grabbed the communicator. "Captain, get the ship away from here. Don't let them destroy you too." "I'm not leaving you, Doctor." "That's an order. Someone needs to tell Earth what happened here." Around the hospital, panic began to spread. Some Kelverite families started to run. Others grabbed their sick relatives, trying to carry them to safety. But many patients were too sick to move. Jiho ran to a group of Kelverite children who were too scared to move. "Come on," he told them in the few words of their language he had learned. "Come with me." The young nurse began herding the children toward a concrete building that might offer some protection. He was almost there when the first energy beam struck the field hospital. The explosion was tremendous. Medical tents burst into flames. Equipment that had saved hundreds of lives melted into slag. The screams of patients and their families filled the air. Hyun-woo found himself thrown to the ground by the blast. His ears were ringing, and his vision was blurry. He struggled to get up, looking for his team and his patients. "So Young!" he called out. "Tae-min!" Through the smoke and flames, he saw Dr. So Young pulling an injured Kelverite to safety. Her medical coat was torn and bloody, but she was still trying to save lives. Another energy beam struck the hospital. This one hit the surgical unit where So Young had been operating just minutes before. The explosion sent debris flying in all directions. Hyun-woo saw a piece of burning metal flying toward a group of Kelverite children. Without thinking, he threw himself between them and the debris. The metal struck him in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending him crashing to the ground. As he fell, he saw something that broke his heart. Jiho was lying motionless near the concrete building. The young nurse had managed to get most of the children to safety, but falling debris had caught him just as he was pushing the last child through the doorway. "Jiho!" Hyun-woo crawled toward his fallen colleague. The young man's eyes were open, but unfocused. Blood ran from a head wound. "Doctor," Jiho whispered, his voice weak. "Did the children... are they safe?" Hyun-woo looked through the doorway of the building. The Kelverite children were there, scared, but alive. Jiho had saved them all. "Yes," Hyun-woo said, tears running down his face. "They're all safe because of you." Jiho smiled slightly. "Good. That's what we came here to do." The young nurse closed his eyes and didn't open them again. More explosions shook the ground. The hegemony ships were destroying everything methodically. Hyun-woo could hear Vextar's voice echoing across the battlefield. "Let this be a lesson to all who would interfere with hegemony plans. We show no mercy to those who oppose us." Hegemony soldiers began landing around the destroyed hospital. They wore heavy armor and carried weapons designed to kill, not heal. They began rounding up the survivors. Hyun-woo, So Young, and Tae-min were forced to their knees in the middle of what had been their hospital. Around them, the patients they had worked so hard to save were being loaded onto prison ships. Commander Vextar himself came down from his ship to see the destruction. He stood in front of the captured human doctors, his red eyes showing satisfaction. "You could have left peacefully," he told them. "Now you will serve as an example to others who think they can oppose the hegemony." Hyun-woo looked up at the alien commander, his face dirty and bloody but his eyes still full of defiance. "You can kill us, but you can't kill what we represent. Other humans will come. They'll see what you did here." Vextar laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. "Let them come. We will destroy them too. The galaxy will learn that the hegemony is not to be opposed, As the human doctors were loaded onto a prison ship, Hyunwoo managed to activate a small emergency beacon hidden in his medical coat. It would broadcast their location and what had happened here. The beacon sent its message toward Earth, carrying news of the attack on the field hospital, the murder of Ji-ho, and the capture of the medical team. It was a small signal in the vastness of space, but it carried a message that would change everything. The hegemony had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked Earth's healers, thinking it would show their strength. Instead, the small emergency beacon drifted through space, carrying its terrible message toward Earth. It would take 3 days to reach the Sol system. 3 days for humanity to learn that their healers had been murdered while trying to save lives. On Earth, President Nam-soo was in her office reviewing trade agreements when her communication device started beeping with an emergency signal. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her eyes held the strength that had made her the leader of all human worlds. "Madam President," her aide rushed into the office. "We're getting an emergency transmission from the Epsilon sector. It's from Dr. Hyunwoo's medical team." Nam-soo felt her stomach drop. She knew Hyunwoo personally. He had saved her daughter's life during the colony plague 5 years ago. He was one of Earth's finest doctors and a good man. "Put it on the main screen," she ordered. The office wall lit up with a recording. It showed the field hospital on Kelvara, just as the attack began. Nam-soo watched in horror as energy beams from hegemony ships destroyed the medical tents. She saw patients running in terror. She saw the moment when young nurse Ji-ho threw himself in front of falling debris to save alien children. The recording showed Dr. Hyunwoo's final words to Commander Vextar. "You can kill us, but you can't kill what we represent. Other humans will come." When the recording ended, President Nam-soo sat in silence for a long moment. Her aide waited nervously. Finally, she spoke. "Get me Admiral Dong Hyun immediately. Then call an emergency session of the Global Defense Council." Within an hour, the most powerful people on Earth gathered in the secure meeting room beneath the capital. Admiral Dong Hyun arrived first. He was a tall man with scars on his face from the Proxima Wars. He had spent 40 years protecting human space. "How bad is it?" he asked as he took his seat. Nam-soo played the recording again. The room fell completely silent as the military leaders watched their people being murdered. When it ended, several people were wiping tears from their eyes. Others had faces twisted with anger. "They attacked a medical mission," said General Won-ho, commander of Earth's ground forces. "A humanitarian mission. They killed doctors and nurses." "They killed Ji-ho," whispered Dr. Yoonji, the head of Earth's medical corps. She had trained the young nurse herself. "He was only 24 years old. He died saving alien children." Admiral Dong Hyun stood up slowly. His voice was quiet but filled with cold fury. "Madam President, I request permission to activate Emergency Protocol 7. The room went even quieter. Protocol 7 had never been used before. It meant total military mobilization. It meant war. "Tell me what that means, Admiral," Nam-soo said. "It means we stop pretending that we're just explorers and traders," Dong Hyun replied. "For 50 years, we've shown the galaxy our peaceful face, our doctors, our teachers, our diplomats. But we've always had another face. Now it's time to show it." Nam-soo looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. She saw anger, sadness, and something else. Determination. "The hegemony thinks we're weak because we heal instead of hurt," she said. "They think our compassion makes us easy targets." "They're about to learn differently," Admiral Dong Hyun said. Nam-soo stood up. "I'm calling a joint session of the Global Assembly. Every nation, every colony, every human world. They need to see what happened to our healers." 2 hours later, representatives from across human space gathered in the Great Assembly Hall. The massive room held delegates from Earth's 100 nations, from the Mars colonies, from the mining stations of the asteroid belt, from the farming worlds of Alpha. Centauri President Namsu walked to the center podium. Behind her, a giant screen showed the image of Dr. Hyun-woo's medical team before they left for Kelvara. 4 people who had dedicated their lives to helping others. Fellow humans, Namsu began, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. 3 days ago, we lost some of our finest people. Not in an accident. Not in a natural disaster. They were murdered while trying to save lives. She played the recording from Kelvara. The hall was completely silent as 8 billion humans watched their healers die. When it ended, Nam-Soo spoke again. Dr. Hyun-woo, Dr. So-young, Dr. Tae-min, and Nurse Ji-ho went to Kelvara to fight a plague. They asked for nothing in return. They treated everyone equally. They saved hundreds of lives. Her voice grew stronger. The hegemony killed them for it. They said our compassion was weakness. They said our healing was interference. They were wrong. The president touched a control on the podium. The screen behind her changed to show military installations across human space, shipyards, training facilities, weapon factories. Most delegates had never seen these images before. For 50 years, we have shown the galaxy our gentle face. Nam-Soo continued. We sent doctors, not soldiers. We built hospitals, not fortresses. We chose to heal rather than harm. But we are not defenseless. We have never been defenseless. Admiral Dong-hyun joined her at the podium. The hegemony has declared war on our healers. Therefore, they have declared war on us all. The screen showed more images. Warships under construction in the hidden shipyards of Luna. Soldiers training in the deep caves of Mars. Weapons that most humans didn't know existed. We kept these things secret because we hoped we would never need them, the Admiral explained. We wanted to be known for our doctors and teachers, not our warriors. But the hegemony has made that choice for us. A delegate from the farming world of New Seoul stood up. What are you asking us to do? Nam-Soo looked directly at her. I'm asking you to remember why we heal. We heal because every life has value, because no one should suffer when we can help them, because compassion is humanity's greatest strength. She paused, letting her words sink in. The hegemony attacked our healers because they thought our compassion made us weak. They thought we would accept their cruelty. They were wrong about us. Another delegate, this one from the asteroid mining stations, called out, What happens to Dr. Hyun-woo and the others? Are they still alive? We believe so, Admiral Dong-hyun answered. The hegemony is probably keeping them as prisoners to show off their victory. That gives us time. Time for what? Asked a representative from Mars. Nam-Soo's expression hardened. Time to show the galaxy that attacking Earth's healers was the worst mistake the hegemony could have made. The vote was unanimous. Every human, world, every colony, every station voted yes. Protocol 7 was activated. For the first time in 50 years, humanity was going to war. Within hours of the vote, things began to change across human space. The peaceful merchant ships that had carried Earth's goods to other worlds were recalled. In their place, different ships began to launch. Darker ships. Ships that had been built in secret and kept hidden. On Luna, Admiral Dong-hyun walked through, the command center of humanity's hidden military headquarters. Officers who had spent decades preparing for a war they hoped would never come were now preparing for battle. Status report, he ordered. All fleets are responding to the recall order, reported Captain Sung-min. The Reaper units are requesting immediate deployment. Not yet, Dong-hyun said. First, we gather our strength. Then we show the galaxy what happens when you attack our healers. In the medical stations across human space, doctors and nurses watched the news reports about their murdered colleagues. Many volunteered immediately to take their place. They knew the danger, but they also knew that healing couldn't stop just because someone threatened it. Dr. Min-ho, who ran the medical training center on Mars, spoke for all of them. Ji-ho died Protecting children. Hyun-woo and his team are prisoners because they wouldn't abandon their patients. We won't abandon our mission either. But now we know that our healers need protectors. The message went out across the galaxy through diplomatic channels. Earth's response was simple and clear. We are recalling our medical missions, our trade ships, and our diplomatic staff. Any species that wishes Earth's help in the future will need to guarantee the safety of our people. The hegemony has shown that some beings in this galaxy see compassion as weakness. They will learn that they are wrong. But there was another message sent on military frequencies that most species couldn't even detect. This message went to the secret monitoring stations that Earth had placed throughout known space, stations that had been watching, listening, and gathering information for 50 years. Operation Reaper is authorized. Find the hegemony, find our people, show them what happens when they attack Earth's healers. In the darkness between stars, ships that had never been seen by alien eyes began to move. They were painted black and carried no identification. They moved silently, invisibly, toward hegemony space. The hegemony had wanted to see humanity's other face. They were about to get their wish. On the prison ship carrying Dr. Hyun-woo and his surviving team, the captured humans didn't know that help was coming. They only knew that they had done their duty as healers, and that Ji-ho had died a hero's death. But across human space, 8 billion people now knew their names. 8 billion people had seen what the hegemony did to their healers, and 8 billion people had voted for war. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their compassion or their weapons, it was their willingness to use both in service of justice. On the dark side of Luna, far from Earth's cities and tourist stations, lay the most secret military base in human space. For 50 years, it had been hidden beneath the surface of the moon. The galaxy knew nothing about it. Most humans knew nothing about it. Today, for the first time, it was fully active. Captain Woo Jin walked through the underground corridors that stretched for miles beneath the lunar surface. He was 35 years old with scars on his hands from a dozen secret missions. His black uniform had no decorations, no name tags, nothing to identify him. That was how the Reapers worked. The Reapers were humanity's most elite soldiers. They didn't exist on any official records. They had no families that anyone knew about. They lived in the shadows between worlds, training for a war that everyone hoped would never come. Now that war was here. Captain Woo Jin, report to Command Center Alpha. The voice came through speakers hidden in the walls. Woo Jin walked through security doors that scanned his DNA, his heartbeat, and patterns in his eyes that no one could fake. The final door opened into a massive room filled with screens and computers. At the center stood Colonel Jae-sung, the man who commanded all Reaper operations. Jae-sung was older, maybe 50, with gray in his black hair. He had been fighting humanity's secret wars since before Woo Jin was born. When aliens first met humans, they thought Earth's people were all like their diplomats and doctors. They never met men like Jae-sung. Captain, Jae-sung said without looking away from the tactical displays. Your Alpha Squad is being activated for immediate deployment. Woo Jin felt his pulse quicken. Alpha Squad had trained together for 8 years, but they had never been used in actual combat. Their missions had always been reconnaissance, gathering information, watching potential threats. Now everything was different. What's our target, sir? Jae-sung touched a control and the main screen showed a star map of hegemony space. Red dots marked their military bases, their fleet positions, their command centers. The hegemony thinks they understand human military capability based on our merchant ships and medical vessels, the colonel explained. They're about to learn they were wrong. Another screen lit up with images of hegemony warships. They were big, heavily armed, and designed to intimidate. But Woo Jin could see their weaknesses. His training had taught him to find flaws in any Enemy design. Alpha Squad's mission is surgical strikes on their command structure, Jae-sung continued. While our main fleet engages their forces, you will eliminate their ability to coordinate a response. Understood, sir. What about the captured medical team? Jae-sung's expression softened slightly. Dr. Hyun-woo and his people are being held on the Hegemony flagship. That makes them your secondary objective. Get our people back, Captain. Woo-jin nodded. He had read Dr. Hyun-woo's file. The man had saved thousands of lives across the galaxy. He had earned the right to be rescued. Your team is waiting in Bay 7, Jae-sung said. Launch in 1 hour. Woo-jin saluted and left the command center. As he walked toward Bay 7, he passed other Reaper teams preparing for their own missions. Lieutenant Minji was leading Phantom Wing, the stealth infiltration unit. Her team specialized in getting into places that were supposed to be impossible to reach. Woo-jin, she called out as he passed. Minji was small and quiet, but Woo-jin had seen her take down enemies twice her size without making a sound. Heard you drew the flagship mission. Someone has to get our doctors back, he replied. Make them pay for Jiho, she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed the anger that all Reapers felt. The young nurse's death had hit everyone hard. Count on it. Bay 7 contained Woo-jin's ship, the Shadow Strike. It was painted matte black and covered in stealth technology that made it nearly invisible to sensors. Unlike the medical ships that carried Earth's peaceful message to the stars, this ship was built for one purpose, war. His team was already aboard. Sergeant Kyung-ho was checking weapon systems. Corporal Hye-jin was reviewing intelligence files on their targets. Private Dae-won was running final diagnostics on their armor and equipment. Team briefing, Woo-jin called out as he entered the ship. They gathered around a holographic display in the ship's center. Woo-jin activated images of their target, the Hegemony flagship domination. This is where they're keeping Dr. Hyun-woo and his team, he explained. The ship is 12 kilometers long with a crew of 50,000. It's protected by shield generators and carries enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Sergeant Kyung-ho grinned. Sounds like fun. Our job is to disable their command systems and rescue the prisoners, Woo-jin continued. We get in, complete the mission, and get out before they know what hit them. How do we get aboard something that big without being detected? Asked Corporal. Hye-jin Woo-jin smiled. We don't sneak aboard, we make them invite us. The plan was risky but simple. The Shadow Strike would disguise itself as a damaged merchant ship requesting emergency assistance. Hegemony regulations required them to provide aid to ships in distress. Once aboard, the Reapers would strike fast and hard as their ship launched. From Luna Base, Woo-jin looked back at Earth through the viewports. The blue and green world looked peaceful from space. Most of the people down there were doctors, teachers, farmers, and engineers. They built things instead of destroying them. They healed instead of hurting. But they had also built ships like the Shadow Strike. They had trained soldiers like the Reapers. They had prepared for war while hoping for peace. Captain, Private Dae-won called from the communications station. I'm picking up transmissions from other Reaper units. Looks like the whole operation is launching. Through their secure channels, Woo-jin could hear reports from across human space. Phantom Wing was moving toward a Hegemony intelligence base. Thunder Company was preparing to assault a major fleet yard. Ghost Battalion was already infiltrating Hegemony supply lines. For 50 years, the Hegemony had expanded across the galaxy, conquering worlds and enslaving populations. They had faced resistance before, but never anything like this. They had never fought humans who weren't trying to heal or help. All units, this is command. Colonel Jae-sung's voice came over the secure channel. Operation Reaper is now active. Show them what happens when they attack our healers. The Shadow Strike entered hyperspace, heading toward Hegemony territory. Behind them, the largest military fleet in human history was also moving. Admiral Dong-hyun commanded more than 1,000 warships, vessels that had been built in secret and kept hidden from the galaxy. But the main fleet was just a distraction. The real damage would be done by teams like Alpha Squad. While the hegemony focused on the big ships, the Reapers would cut out their heart. 3 days later, the Shadow Strike dropped out of hyperspace near a hegemony patrol station. Wu Jin's team had spent the journey studying their targets and preparing their equipment. Now it was time to work. Mayday, Mayday, Wu Jin broadcast on standard emergency frequencies. This is the merchant vessel Golden Hope. We have suffered engine failure and life support is failing. Request immediate assistance. The hegemony patrol station responded quickly. Merchant vessel, this is hegemony station 74. State your cargo and destination. We're carrying medical supplies to the Outer Rim colonies, Wu Jin lied smoothly. Our crew is dying from oxygen loss. Please help us. There was a pause. Then, stand by, Golden Hope. Rescue ship is launching. Within an hour, a hegemony ship had docked with the Shadow Strike. As the airlocks opened, 3 hegemony soldiers entered what they thought was a disabled merchant ship. They found 4 humans in merchant uniforms who looked scared and grateful. The hegemony soldiers relaxed, thinking this was just another routine rescue. They were wrong. The merchant humans moved faster than the aliens thought possible. In less than 10 seconds, all 3 hegemony soldiers were unconscious. The Reapers quickly stripped them of their uniforms and equipment. Phase 1 complete. Wu Jin reported to his team. Now we become the enemy. Disguised as hegemony soldiers, the Reapers boarded the rescue ship. The crew never suspected that their own people had been replaced. Within minutes, Alpha Squad controlled the vessel. Set course for the flagship, Wu Jin ordered. Time to collect our doctors. The rescue ship Mercy's End began moving toward the massive hegemony flagship. To anyone watching, it looked like a routine supply run. No one suspected that inside the small ship, 4 of humanity's deadliest soldiers were preparing to strike at the heart of the hegemony war machine. Dr. Hyunwoo and his team had been prisoners for 6 days. They didn't know that help was coming. They only knew that they had tried to save lives and been punished for it. But across the galaxy, humanity's other face was finally showing itself. The healers had been attacked, so the Reapers of Death were coming. The hegemony was about to learn that humanity's compassion was matched only by their capacity for righteous fury. The rescue of Earth's doctors was about to begin. The hegemony flagship Domination was the largest warship in known space. 12 kilometers of dark metal and weapons systems, it had never been defeated in battle. Commander Vexitar stood on its bridge, watching his fleet patrol the sector where they had destroyed the human medical mission. 6 days had passed since the attack on Kelvara. Vexitar expected the humans to surrender soon. Maybe they would send diplomats begging for the return of their precious doctors. That would show the galaxy that the hegemony was not to be challenged. Commander, reported his intelligence officer, we're detecting increased communications traffic from human space. They appear to be recalling their merchant ships, Vexitars. 4 arms moved in what his species considered a shrug. Fear. They know we can destroy their weak trading vessels anytime we choose. Should we be concerned about their military response? Vextar laughed, the sound echoing across the bridge. What military? The humans have shown us merchant ships and medical vessels for 50 years. They are healers and traders, not warriors. Far below on the ship's prison level, Dr. Hyunwoo sat in his cell thinking about his team. Dr. So Young was in the cell next to his, recovering from injuries she had received during the attack. Dr. Tae Min was across the corridor, still working even in captivity by studying hegemony biology through observation of their guards. The cells were small and cold, but the prisoners were alive. Vextar wanted to keep them as trophies, proof that the mighty hegemony could capture. Earth's finest people, Doctor, So Young whispered through the gap between their cells. Do you think Earth knows what happened to us? Jiho activated his emergency beacon before the attack. Hyunwoo replied quietly. They know. What do you think they'll do? Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment. He thought about President Nam Su, who had become a friend over the years. He thought about Admiral Dong Hyun, who had personally thanked him for saving colony worlds from disease. He thought about the humanity he knew, compassionate, but not weak. "They'll come for us," he said finally. "And they'll make sure this never happens to other healers." 3 levels above the prison, the Domination's docking bay received a routine arrival. The rescue ship Mercy's End had returned from a patrol mission. The bay crew barely looked at it as it settled onto the landing platform. 4 figures in hegemony uniforms walked down the ship's ramp. They looked like ordinary soldiers, returning from duty. No one noticed that they moved with a precision that regular troops didn't have. No one saw the way their eyes cataloged every weapon, every exit, every weakness in the bay's defenses. Captain Wu Jin led his team through the corridors of the massive ship. Their stolen uniforms and forged identification passes got them past security checkpoints without question. The hegemony was so confident in their strength that they never expected infiltrators. "Sergeant," Wu Jin spoke quietly to Kyung-ho, "what's our status on the ship's layout?" "Prison level is 7 decks down," Kyung-ho replied, checking a handheld scanner that looked like standard hegemony equipment. "Command center is 12 decks up. We can hit both targets if we move fast." Corporal Hyajin, "How long before they notice we're not who we pretend to be?" "Maybe an hour if we're lucky," she answered. "These uniforms will only fool them for so long. Then we move fast. Daewon, you're with me. We get the doctors. Kyung-ho and Heejin, you hit the command systems. Rendezvous at the escape pods in 30 minutes. The team split up at the next corridor junction. Woo-jin and Private Daewon headed downward toward the prison levels. The other 2 Reapers went up toward the ship's brain. Meanwhile, far from the flagship, Lieutenant Min Ji's Phantom Wing was completing their own mission. They had infiltrated a hegemony intelligence base on the planet Zerion. While Alpha Squad rescued the doctors, Phantom Wing was stealing every piece of data the hegemony had on their military operations. "Package secured," Minji reported over the secure channel. "All hegemony fleet movements and battle plans are now in our possession." Across hegemony space, other Reaper teams were striking simultaneously. Ghost Battalion had destroyed 3 supply depots. Thunder Company had captured a major shipyard. The hegemony was under attack from enemies they couldn't see, couldn't track, and couldn't understand. Back on the Domination, Wu Jin and Daewon reached the prison level without being detected. The corridor was guarded by 2 hegemony soldiers, who were more interested in their conversation than their duties. "These human prisoners are pathetic," one guard was saying. "They just sit in their cells reading medical books." "Commander Vexitar should have killed them on Kelvara," the other replied. "Keeping them alive is a waste of resources." The guards never saw the 2 Reapers approach. They were unconscious and hidden in a supply closet within seconds. Wu Jin and Daewon now had access to the prison controls. "Dr. Hyun-woo?" Wu Jin called softly as he opened the cell doors. "I'm Captain Wu Jin, Earth Special Forces. We're here to take you home." The 3 captured doctors looked at their rescuer in amazement. They had expected diplomats or negotiators, not soldiers. Wu Jin was young, but he moved with the confidence of someone who had never failed a mission. "How many of you are there?" Dr. Taemin asked as they quickly left their cells. 4 on this ship," Wu Jin replied, leading them toward the escape pods. "But we're not alone. The entire human fleet is coming." "Fleet?" So Young looked confused. "What fleet? Earth doesn't have a military fleet." "We do now," Daewon said grimly. "After what they did to Ji-ho and your medical mission, everything changed." On the command deck, Sergeant Kyung-ho and Corporal Hya-jin had reached their target. The hegemony's central computer core was protected by advanced security, but they had trained for this exact situation. "Upload the virus," Kyung-ho whispered, as Hye-jin connected her device to the computer system. The virus was a masterpiece of human programming. It would spread through the entire hegemony computer network, giving Earth's forces access to every ship, every base, every communication channel. But more importantly, it would shut down their ability to coordinate their defenses. Upload complete, Jin reported. This ship is about to go dark. Alarms began blaring throughout the domination. The crew had finally discovered that intruders were aboard their ship. Red lights flashed as hegemony soldiers began searching every corridor. Commander Vextar's voice echoed through the ship's speakers. All units, we have been infiltrated. Find the intruders and bring them to me alive. But it was too late. The virus was already spreading through the ship's systems. Navigation went offline. Weapons systems began shutting down. Communications with the rest of the fleet were cut. This is impossible, Vextar snarled at his officers. How could primitive humans do this to us? His intelligence officer was staring at his screen in disbelief. Commander, I'm detecting massive hyperspace signatures approaching our position. Multiple fleets, size unknown. Show me, Vextar demanded. The main screen lit up with a tactical display that made every officer on the bridge freeze in terror. Hundreds of ships were dropping out of hyperspace around them. These were not the merchant vessels and medical ships they had seen before. These were warships, sleek and deadly, with weapon signatures that exceeded anything in the hegemony arsenal. The head of the fleet was Admiral Dong Hyun's flagship, the Earth's Vengeance. It was smaller than the Domination, but radiated a menace that made the hegemony ship look clumsy by comparison. This is Admiral Dong Hyun of the Earth Defense Force, came the transmission that reached every ship in the sector. You have attacked our healers. You have murdered our people. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to galactic law. Resist and face the consequences. Vextar's red eyes burned with fury. They dare threaten us? Open fire on all human ships. But when his weapons officer tried to comply, nothing happened. The virus had disabled their weapon systems. The mighty Domination was helpless. In the escape pod bay, Wu Jin and his team were preparing to leave with the rescued doctors. Through the viewports, they could see the Earth fleet surrounding the hegemony ships. Beautiful sight, Daewon commented, as human warships moved into attack formation. Dr. Hyun-woo watched in amazement. I never knew we had ships like these. We hoped you'd never need to, Wu Jin replied. But when you attack our healers, you meet our warriors. The escape pod launched from the Domination just as the first exchange of fire began. Earth's ships moved with precision and coordination that the hegemony couldn't match. Their weapons struck with surgical accuracy, disabling rather than destroying when possible. This was not a battle of conquest. It was a rescue mission and a lesson. The lesson was simple. Humanity protected its healers with the same dedication they showed when healing others. All human ships, this is Alpha Squad, Wu Jin reported as their escape pod reached the Earth's Vengeance. Package secure. Doctors are safe. Admiral Dong Hyun's voice came back immediately. Outstanding work, Captain. Now, let's finish teaching the hegemony about the price of attacking our healers. The battle was just beginning, but the outcome was already clear. The hegemony had attacked Earth's gentle face and awakened something far more dangerous. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their compassion or their weapons. It was their willingness to use both in service of justice. The battle around the hegemony flagship Domination was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Earth's warships moved like dancers, each one knowing exactly where the others would be. Their weapons fired with precision that turned the darkness of space into brilliant flashes of light. Commander Vextar stood on his bridge, watching his mighty fleet being torn apart by ships he had never seen before. His forearms shook with rage and fear. For 30 years, the hegemony had conquered world after world. No one had ever challenged them like this. Status report, he screamed at his officers. Sir, we've lost contact with 70% of our fleet. his communications officer reported, his voice trembling. "The human virus has spread through our entire network. We can't coordinate our defenses." "Weapon systems are completely offline," added the weapons officer. "The humans did something to our computers. Nothing works." Through the view screen, Vextar could see Earth ships approaching disabled hegemony vessels, but instead of destroying them, the human ships were sending over boarding parties. They were capturing ships and crews, not killing them. "They're taking prisoners," Vextar realized. "They want us alive." On the bridge of the Earth's vengeance, Admiral Dong Hyun watched the battle with satisfaction. His fleet was performing, exactly as planned. 50 years of secret preparation was paying off. "Admiral," reported Captain Sungmin, "we have control of 43 hegemony ships. Their crews are surrendering without resistance." "Good. What about civilian casualties?" "None," reported, sir. "Our precision strikes are working perfectly." Dong Hyun nodded. This was the difference between Earth's military and the hegemonies. The aliens fought to destroy and conquer. Humans fought to protect and liberate. "Sir," another officer called. "Out. We're receiving surrender signals from multiple hegemony worlds. Word of our victory is spreading fast. In the medical bay of the flagship, Dr. Hyun-woo was being treated for his injuries by Dr. Yoon-ji, who had arrived with the fleet. So Young and Tae-min were in nearby beds, finally safe after their ordeal." "Doctor," Hyun-woo said to Yoon-ji, "I need to get back to work. There are still sick people on Kelvara who need help." "You need rest," Yoon-ji replied firmly. "You've been through a terrible experience." "The experience was terrible because they stopped us from helping people," Hyun-woo said. "The best way to honor Ji-ho's memory is to continue our mission." Through the medical bay's viewport, they could see the continuing battle, but it wasn't really a battle anymore. It was a systematic dismantling of the hegemony's military power. Captain Woo Jin entered the medical bay, still wearing his black Reaper uniform. He had come to check on the rescued doctors. "How are our patients?" he asked Yoon-ji. "They'll recover fully," she replied. "They're tougher than they look." Woo Jin smiled slightly. "I know. It takes real courage to go into a war. Zone carrying medicine instead of weapons." Dr. So Young looked up from her bed. "Captain, how many ships does Earth really have?" "Enough," Woo Jin answered. "We've been preparing for this day for 50 years, hoping it would never come." "What happens now?" asked Dr. Tae-min. "Now we make sure this never happens again," Woo Jin said. "The galaxy needs to understand that attacking healers has consequences." Across hegemony space, the consequences were becoming clear. On the planet Zerion, Lieutenant Minji's Phantom Wing had not only stolen intelligence, but had also freed thousands of prisoners from hegemony labor camps. The freed prisoners included doctors, teachers, and aid workers from dozens of different species. "Thank you," an elderly alien doctor said to Minji as they prepared to leave the planet. "I was captured 3 years ago for treating refugees. I thought I would die in that camp." "No one should be punished for helping others," Minji replied. "That's why we're here." On the industrial world of Korax, Thunder Company had captured the hegemony's largest weapons factory. But instead of destroying it, they were converting it to produce medical equipment and emergency supplies. Colonel Jae Sung, who had arrived to oversee the operation, walked through the factory with the captured hegemony administrators. "This facility will now produce hospital equipment instead of weapons," he told them. "You can choose to help with the conversion, or you can be sent to prison camps." "You're not going to execute us?" asked the factory manager, surprised. "We're not the hegemony," Jae-sung replied. "We don't kill people for doing their jobs. But your job is changing." Back at the flagship battle, the tide had completely turned. The domination was surrounded by Earth ships, its weapons disabled, its crew demoralized. Commander Vextar faced a choice: surrender or watch his ship be boarded by force. Admiral Dong Hyun's voice came over the communication channel. "Commander Vextar, this is Admiral Dong Hyun. Your fleet is defeated. Your computer systems are compromised. Your weapons are offline. I'm offering you one chance to surrender peacefully. Vextar looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers. They were afraid, defeated, waiting for his decision. He thought about the human medical team he had captured, the young nurse who had died protecting alien children. He had thought. Their compassion was weakness. He had been wrong. I surrender, Vextar said finally. But I want to know one thing, human. Why didn't you destroy us completely? You have the power. Dong Hyun's response was immediate. Because destruction isn't our goal, Commander. Justice is. The formal surrender took place aboard the Earth's Vengeance. Commander Vextar, his senior, officers and representatives from dozens of hegemony worlds were brought to the Admiral's conference room. It was a large space with Earth's flag displayed prominently. Admiral Dong Hyun sat at the head of a long table. Dr. Hyun Woo, despite his injuries, had insisted on being present. He wanted to look the alien commander in the eyes. Commander Vextar, Dong Hyun began, you are charged with war crimes against medical personnel, murder of non-combatants, and the illegal use of biological weapons. Vextar's red eyes fixed on Dr. Hyun Woo. You came to interfere with our conquest of Kelvara. We came to save lives, Hyun Woo replied calmly. That's what doctors do, and you killed our people for it, Dong Hyun added. Nurse Ji-ho died protecting children who weren't even human. He was 24 years old and had never hurt anyone in his life. Vextar was silent for a long moment. I don't understand you. Humans. You have this power, this military strength, but you hide it. You send healers instead of warriors. Why? Dr. Hyun-woo leaned forward. Because healing is harder than killing, Commander. Any fool can destroy. It takes wisdom and skill to save lives. But when someone attacks our healers, Admiral Dong Hyun continued, they face our warriors. You made that choice for us. The terms of surrender were simple but complete. The hegemony would be dissolved. Their conquered worlds would be granted independence. Their military would be disbanded. Their leaders would face trial for war crimes. Most importantly, a new law would be established across the galaxy. Attacking medical personnel, aid workers, or humanitarian missions would be considered an act of war against Earth itself. You're creating a galactic empire, Vextar accused. No, Dong Hyun replied. We're creating galactic law. There's a difference. As the surrender ceremony concluded, reports continued to arrive from across former hegemony space. World after world was declaring independence. Prison camps were being opened. Refugees were being helped by Earth medical teams that had accompanied the fleet. Dr. So Young, now recovered enough to work, was already organizing relief efforts for the liberated worlds. We'll need medical supplies for 3 billion people, she told Admiral Dong Hyun. Many of them have been without proper health care for years. Whatever you need, Doctor, the Admiral replied. That's why we're here. On Kelvara, the first Earth medical ships were landing at the site where the field hospital had been destroyed. The plague was finally being fought with proper medicine and equipment. The Kelvarite people who had been dying were getting better. Vel-Ara, the refugee who had told Hyun-woo about the hegemony's crimes, was there to greet the new medical team. She carried a message for them. Tell Dr. Hyun-woo that the children Ji-ho saved are healthy and growing strong, she said. They will never forget the human who died protecting them. The message was sent to the Earth's Vengeance, where it reached Dr. Hyun-woo as he prepared to return to work. He read it silently, then looked up at Admiral Dong Hyun. Permission to return to Kelvara, Admiral. I have patients to treat. Granted, Doctor, but this time you'll have an escort. As the Earth fleet began spreading across former hegemony space, a new order was taking shape. It wasn't an empire based on conquest, but a network based on protection. Earth's medical ships would continue their missions, but now they would be guarded by the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. The galaxy had learned that humanity's compassion was real, but so was their strength. They healed when they could and fought when they must, and anyone who threatened their healers would face the consequences. The hegemony was finished, but Earth's mission was just beginning. There were billions of people who needed help, and humanity would not abandon them. The healers would heal, protected by the knowledge that their guardians were always watching. 3 months after the fall of the hegemony fleet, the galaxy was still changing. On hundreds of worlds, people who had lived under alien rule for decades were finally free. But freedom brought new problems that only Earth seemed able to solve. Admiral Dong-hyun stood in the war room of Luna Base, looking at star maps that showed the scope of humanity's new responsibilities. Red dots marked worlds that needed immediate medical aid. Yellow dots showed planets requesting protection from pirates and raiders. Green dots indicated systems that wanted to join Earth's growing alliance. "Status report," he ordered Captain Sung-min. "Sir, we have 47 worlds formally requesting Earth protection," Sung-min replied. 18 more have asked for permanent medical missions, and we're getting reports of warlords trying to fill the power gap left by the hegemony. Colonel Jae-sung entered the room carrying a data pad. "Admiral, the Reaper teams are reporting success across the board. We've eliminated 3 pirate fleets and captured 2 warlord bases in the past week." "Casualties?" Dong-hyun asked. "None on our side. Minimal civilian casualties. The enemy forces are surrendering quickly when they realize they're facing Earth. Military." Dong-hyun nodded. Word was spreading that fighting humans was a losing proposition. The galaxy had seen what happened to the mighty hegemony. Few were willing to test Earth's resolve. What about the diplomatic situation? "That's more complicated," Jae-sung admitted. "The Galactic Council is nervous about our growing influence. Some species are saying we're becoming the new hegemony." "Are we?" Dong-hyun asked quietly. Jae-sung shook his head. "No, sir. The difference is clear. We protect, they conquered. We heal, they destroyed. We ask for nothing in return except the safety of our medical personnel." On the planet Theros, this difference was becoming obvious to everyone. The world had been a hegemony prison planet where political prisoners and rebels were sent to die, in the mines. Now it was becoming something entirely different. Dr. So-young walked through what had once been Prison Block 7. The cells had been converted into hospital rooms. The guard towers were now equipped with communication arrays to call for help. The mines were being closed and replaced with farms and schools. "Doctor," called out Torvin, a former prisoner who was now helping with the medical mission. He was a tall, thin alien with blue skin and 6 arms. "The children from Mining Section 3 are ready for their health checkups." So-young smiled. These were children who had been born in the prison camps, never knowing freedom until Earth arrived. Now they were learning to read, to play, to hope for a future. "How are they adapting?" she asked, as they walked toward the former punishment. "Cells, now a pediatric ward. Better than expected," Torvin replied. "They ask many questions about Earth. They want to know why humans came to help them when their own species abandoned them." "What do you tell them?" "The truth, that some people choose to heal, others choose to hurt. Earth chose to heal." In the UI Children's Ward, So-young found Captain Woo Jin reading stories to a group of young aliens. The deadly Reaper soldier looked completely comfortable surrounded by children from 5 different species. "Captain," So-young said with amusement, "this isn't exactly what they trained you for, is it?" Woo Jin looked up from the picture book he was holding. "Actually, Doctor, it is. We were trained to protect what matters. What matters more than children?" One of the children, a small creature with fur and large eyes, tugged on Woo Jin's black uniform. "Will you stay here forever?" she asked in broken standard. "No, little one," Woo Jin replied gently. "But other good people will come. Earth people who will keep you safe." The child seemed satisfied with this answer and returned to looking at the pictures in the book. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on dozens of worlds. Earth's military and medical forces were working together to create something the galaxy had never seen, an empire of healing. But not everyone was happy with the changes. On the wealthy world of Pluton Prime, the ruling council was meeting in La Salle emergency session. They had grown rich by trading with the hegemony, selling weapons and supplies for their conquests. Now that trade was gone, and Earth was demanding changes. "The humans want us to stop producing weapons," complained Council Leader Zarthon. "They say we must convert our factories to make medical equipment and emergency supplies." "And if we refuse?" asked another council member. "They showed us the battle recordings from the hegemony flagship," Zarthon replied with fear in his voice. Their Admiral Dong-hyun was very clear: convert or face the consequences. "But we're not warriors," protested the youngest council member. "We're just merchants." "Merchants who sold weapons used to kill innocent people," came a new voice from the chamber entrance. The council turned to see Lieutenant Minji enter with two other Reaper soldiers. She had been sent to oversee the conversion of Pluton Prime's weapons factories. "Lieutenant," Zarthon said nervously, "we were just discussing the terms of conversion." "No. You were discussing how to avoid taking responsibility for your actions," Minji corrected. "For 20 years, you sold weapons to the hegemony, knowing they would be used to enslave worlds and kill civilians." "We had no choice," one council member protested. "The hegemony would have destroyed us if we refused." Minji's expression didn't change. "You had the same choice Dr. Hyunwoo had when the hegemony ordered him to leave Kelvera. He chose to stay and help his patients. You chose profit over principle." The room fell silent. Everyone in the galaxy now knew the story of the medical team that had died rather than abandon their patients. "However," Minji continued, "Earth believes in redemption. Convert your factories. Use your skills to help instead of hurt. Prove that you've learned from your mistakes. And if we do this, Earth will protect us?" Zarthon asked. "Earth protects those who protect others," Minji replied. "Start helping, and you'll have our protection." Meanwhile, in the deepest parts of former hegemony space, a more serious threat was emerging. War Captain Drac Moore had commanded one of the hegemony's most brutal fleets. He had escaped the destruction of the main force and was now gathering other survivors. "The humans think they have won," Drac Moore told his assembled officers in a hidden base among the asteroids of the Corax system. "They think their mercy makes them strong. We will show them that mercy is weakness." His plan was simple but vicious. Attack Earth's medical missions, kill their doctors and nurses, force them to choose between healing and fighting. Drac Moore believed that if the humans had to constantly defend their healers, they would eventually withdraw from former hegemony space. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported, "we've identified 3 Earth medical missions that are lightly guarded: the hospital ship Healing Light in the Terran system, the field hospital on Vexos, and the research station on Crim 7. "Excellent," Drakmore said, his eyes glowing with malice. "We attack all 3 simultaneously. The humans will learn what happens when they try to replace the hegemony." But Drakmore had made the same mistake as his former commander. He underestimated Earth's intelligence network and their commitment to protecting their healers. On Luna Base, Colonel Jae Sung was reviewing intercepted communications when he discovered Drakmore's plan. "Admiral," he called Dong-hyun immediately, "we have a problem. Hegemony survivors are planning coordinated attacks on our medical missions." Dong-hyun's response was swift and decisive. "Deploy Reaper teams to all 3 locations immediately. And Colonel?" "Yes, sir?" "Make sure Drakmore understands why we're called the Reapers of Death." Within hours, invisible ships were moving through space toward the 3 target systems. The Shadow Strike carried Captain Wu Jin's Alpha Squad toward the Terran system. Similar ships carried other Reaper teams to Vexos and Crim 7. Dr. Hyun Woo, who had returned to active duty aboard the Healing Light, received a coded message that made him smile grimly. The message was simple: "Package delivery scheduled. Continue." Normal operations. He knew what it meant. The Reapers were coming to protect his mission. The galaxy was about to learn again what happened when someone threatened Earth's healers. In his hidden base, Drakmor was making final preparations for his attacks. He had assembled a fleet of 30 ships, all crewed by the most violent survivors of the hegemony military. They were armed with the most destructive weapons they could find. Tomorrow, we remind the galaxy that the hegemony spirit lives on, he told his followers. We will show them that humans bleed just like anyone else. But in the darkness between stars, death was already coming for him. The Reapers had marked Drakmor and his followers for elimination. They had made the fatal mistake of threatening Earth's healers. The final battle for the legacy of the hegemony was about to begin, and it would end where it started, with someone learning that attacking Earth's healers was the last mistake they would ever make. War Captain Drakmor's fleet approached the Terran system in the early morning hours, confident in their surprise attack. 30 warships filled with the most violent survivors of the hegemony military were ready to destroy the Earth hospital. Ship healing light and prove that humans could be beaten. All ships, prepare for attack, Drakmor commanded from his flagship Vengeance of Hegemony. Show no mercy to the human healers. Make them pay for destroying our empire. But as his fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the peaceful hospital ship, Drakmor found something he hadn't expected. The healing light was not alone and undefended. Surrounding it were dozens of ships from different species, former hegemony. Prisoners, refugees, and liberated worlds who had come to protect the humans who had saved them. Sir, his sensor officer reported nervously, I'm detecting 47 ships around the human vessel. They're not military, but they're armed and in defensive positions. Drakmor snarled. Former slaves protecting their masters. How pathetic. Destroy them all. But before his fleet could fire, space around them began to shimmer. From the darkness came ships that Drakmor recognized with terror. Black vessels with no markings that moved like hunting predators. The Reapers had arrived. Captain, Wu Jin's voice came over the communication channel, cold and clear. War Captain Drakmor, this is Captain Wu Jin of Earth Special Forces. You are surrounded. Surrender now, and you will live to face trial. Never, Drakmor screamed. We are the true heirs of the hegemony. We will not surrender to weak humans and their pet aliens. Then you have chosen death, Wu Jin replied simply. The battle that followed was not really a battle at all. It was an execution. The Reaper ships moved with perfect coordination, their weapons striking with surgical precision. Drakmor's fleet, built for terrorizing helpless civilians, was no match for soldiers trained to fight real wars. One by one, the hegemony ships were disabled or destroyed. On the bridge of the healing light, Dr. Hyunwoo watched the fight through the viewports while continuing to treat patients. He was performing surgery on a young alien child who had been injured in a mining accident. Even during a space battle, the work of healing went on. Doctor, called Nurse Park Soo, who had volunteered. To replace Ji-ho, the Reaper ships are asking if we need medical assistance for any survivors. Tell them yes, Hyunwoo replied without looking up from his patient. We treat everyone, even our enemies. Meanwhile, at Vexos and Crim 7, similar scenes were playing out. Lieutenant Minji's Phantom Wing had destroyed the hegemony attack force at Vexos before they could even approach the field hospital. At Crim 7, Thunder Company had captured the entire enemy fleet without losing a single ship. Within 2 hours, Drakmor's grand plan to revive the hegemony was finished. Most of his ships were destroyed or captured. His surviving followers were in Earth custody. The war captain himself was dead, killed when he refused to surrender even as his flagship exploded around him. The galaxy watched these final battles with amazement and growing understanding. Earth's message was clear. Threaten their healers and face total destruction, but surrender peacefully and receive mercy and medical treatment. 6 months later, Representatives from across the galaxy gathered on the planet Kelvara for a historic ceremony. They met at the memorial built where the first field hospital had been destroyed, where Nurse Jiho had died protecting alien children. President Nam Su stood before the assembled delegates, her voice carrying across the memorial ground. Behind her, a statue showed Jiho shielding the Kelvarite children with his own body, his face showing determination and love. We gather here to remember those who died and to ensure their sacrifice was not in vain, she began. 6 months ago, the hegemony attacked this medical mission because they saw our compassion as weakness. Today, we sign the Kelvara Accords to make sure this never happens again. The accords were simple but revolutionary. Any attack on medical personnel, humanitarian missions, or civilian aid workers would be considered an act of war against Earth and all signatory worlds. Earth committed to protecting such missions throughout the galaxy, while other species pledged to support these efforts. Dr. Hyun-woo, now fully recovered and serving as Earth's chief medical officer for galactic operations, spoke next. Jiho was my student before he was my colleague, he said, his voice strong but emotional. He believed that healing was the highest calling any person could have. He died for that belief, and his death changed the galaxy. In the audience, Velara listened with tears in her large Kelvarite eyes. Beside her sat the children that Jiho had saved, now healthy and strong. They had grown up hearing the story of the human nurse who died to protect them. Because of his sacrifice, Hyun-woo continued, millions of people who would have died from disease or war are alive today. Hundreds of worlds that were enslaved are now free. The galaxy learned that mercy is not weakness, it is strength guided by wisdom. Admiral Dong Hyun took the podium to address the military aspects of the new order. Earth did not seek to become a galactic power, he said. We wanted only to heal and help. But when our healers were attacked, we showed the galaxy our other face. That face remains, watching and waiting. Any who threaten the innocent will meet Earth's guardians. The ceremony concluded with the dedication of the new hospital built on the site of the destroyed field hospital. It was the largest medical facility in the galaxy, staffed by doctors and nurses from dozens of species, all working together under Earth's protection. As the delegates dispersed, many stopped to visit the memorial wall where the names of all those killed in the original attack were inscribed. At the top, in letters of gold, was written, Nurse Jiho died protecting children he had never met. Dr. So Young, now running medical operations on 17 worlds, stood before Jiho's name with Captain Woo Jin. Do you think he would be proud of what we've accomplished? She asked. Woo Jin nodded. He died believing that healing was worth any sacrifice. Look around you, Doctor. The galaxy is healing because of what he and your team started. Around them, the new hospital buzzed with activity. Human doctors worked alongside alien physicians. Former hegemony soldiers who had chosen redemption served as medical assistants. Children from a dozen species played together in the recovery ward. 1 year later, Earth's medical ships traveled freely throughout the galaxy, their red crosses, and healing symbols recognized and respected everywhere. They were always accompanied by small escort vessels, a reminder that Earth's healers were protected by Earth's warriors. The Galactic Council, once suspicious of Earth's growing influence, had become their strongest supporters. Council leader Tarnek of Altair spoke for many when he said, "We feared the humans would become conquerors like the hegemony. Instead, they became something new, protectors who ask for nothing except the right to heal." On Luna Base, Colonel Jae-sung reviewed the monthly reports from Reaper teams across the galaxy. Pirates avoided systems with Earth medical missions. Warlords surrendered rather than face human military forces. The galaxy was more peaceful than it had been in centuries. "Sir," Captain Sung-min reported, "we're receiving a request for a new medical mission." The Andromedans in the far rim have discovered a plague on one of their worlds. They're specifically asking for Dr. Hyun-woo's team. Jae-sung smiled. Tell Dr. Hyun-woo his ship launches in 2 days. And Captain? Yes, sir. Make sure he has a full Reaper escort. We've learned our lesson about sending healers into danger alone. The medical ship Jiho's Legacy departed Earth orbit 2 days later, carrying the most advanced medical equipment in the galaxy, and a crew dedicated to saving lives. Behind it followed 3 black ships that most species never saw but always knew were there. Dr. Hyun-woo stood on the bridge as Earth grew smaller behind them. In his pocket, he carried a small photo of his original team. Himself, So-young, Taemin, and Jiho. They had gone to Kelvara to fight a plague and ended up changing the galaxy. Doctor, Nurse Park-soo called from the medical bay, the new equipment is all checked and ready. Where are we headed this time? Wherever people need help, Hyun-woo replied. That's what we do. As the ship entered hyperspace, a message went out on all Earth frequencies. Medical Mission 847 departing for Andromeda Sector. Mission parameters: save lives, show compassion, fear nothing. Earth's healers go where they're needed, protected by Earth's guardians. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their compassion or their warfare. It was their willingness to use both in service of justice. They healed when they could, and reaped death when they must. And everyone who threatened their healers learned the same lesson that the hegemony had learned. Attack Earth's healers, and face the Reapers of Death, the end.